add Twitter to your website. And so what happened was this. So over the past couple of years, Facebook, so this is since like 2013. This is Facebook versus Twitter stock price. Both public companies. Facebook basically destroyed Twitter. If you didn't know that, you know it now. So that's the story. That's the second story. And so what the hell does this have to do with strong loop? That's a good question. Actually, that's not the end of the story. There's more. What startup recently raised money at an $18 billion valuation? Glue. Oh, damn it, you said it before I do this awesome stuff. Yes, Snapchat. Which is crazy because right now, Twitter's worth $9 billion. So you have a brand new startup, essentially. It's only a couple of years old. It was started at the time of those other, Snapchat started here. Now it's worth $18 billion. And this is sort of, this is some other guy said this, but this is kind of what I think. It's just like, oh, Snapchat's ultimately a fad. Or this is what I thought until I looked into this. Snapchat's a fad, and Facebook's going to keep going. Well, why? Like, then why is Snapchat worth $18 billion? 2 times the value of Twitter. And it's because they're much smarter than Twitter. So they could have been a little ahead of the curve, but so Snapchat, basically the payoff to this whole thing is that Snapchat's building an API. Right? That's why it's worth $18 billion. So anyone starting a company, think about that. It's not just about building an application, it's not just about building an API that you can build an application on top of, it's about building a platform that you can build a business on top of. This is another interesting quote. So this is what separates an API from a platform. So think about what Snapchat is doing, what they're trying to do. They're trying to build a media platform exactly like Facebook and Snapchat are doing. They're using technology to build that ecosystem. What's the technology? Like what are platforms built out of APIs? That's kind of the point. Is that an API is not a platform, but a platform is built out of APIs. So if you're a startup right now, you need to know this whole story and know it very, very well, or else you're going to be a Twitter. Becomes Twitter. Hopefully, that'd be an okay outcome actually. So, like Mario was saying, I'm from IBM. I work on a product called API Connect. Has anyone heard of WebSphere? Okay, cool, too. So WebSphere is like IBM's main money maker. WebSphere. So it's web technology. So this is kind of, and this is oversimplification, it's kind of the next generation of IBM's web technology. It's the web technology we're building it for APIs. So API Connect is a platform, full lifecycle platform for APIs. So it's something that could have saved Twitter if they started building on API Connect instead of trying to build their own technology, catching up to Facebook. But Facebook has built something similar. It's obviously proprietary to Facebook. We've taken those sort of concepts and made it open so that startups and existing companies can build out these sort of platforms that I'm talking about. Things like Facebook's built. And so that includes things like API creation, which I'll talk about, which is based on some technology that I was mentioning before. Enforcing company-wide API policies. So if you think about it, if you're building the Facebook API platform, or the Facebook platform, you're interacting with a bunch of different APIs. They have policies at the root of all of those APIs that enforce rate limiting and that sort of thing. And then API security and management. Like once you have a lot of APIs, you need to be able to organize them, deploy them, version them, etc. And then security, which is essentially, let's say you're a bank, you don't want you need your APIs to be secure, which is true for all companies, really. So that's where loopback comes in. Loopback is just one part of API Connect, and that's kind of what I'll be talking about. But before I move on for that, is there any questions from the beginning? The beginning was sort of just a story. Any questions so far? Cool. Okay, so Loopback is kind of the differentiator for API Connect. There's other platforms like API Connect out there. I won't mention them. There are. And so what Loopback does is it allows you to, it's like a backend as a service. It allows you to build the back end of your application without building out all the fundamental technology. So it allows you to build APIs very rapidly in a way that can be like dropped into this API Connect platform. So you don't have to use it.
When did IBM acquire?
Acquire what? Strongloop? So Strongloop is the company behind Loopback. That was October. So what was I saying? Yeah. Loopback is kind of vaguely open source backend as a service. What it really does is allows you to really quickly build APIs. So I'll talk a lot more about that. But once you've built those APIs, you can publish them to the API Connect platform, and then you get all the other features I was talking about, which is like, company-wide policy management, security behind the API gateway, etc. Oh, cool. Can you read that? Anyone? Cool. You guys read that from the back? I'll explain it left, right? And then I can put these charts somewhere if someone wants to look at it later. So on the left, so this is like Loopback as in a nutshell, really. So you have what are called SDKs, which is kind of like, you guys are familiar with parse, and parse has SDKs. Those are the client code that's generated by the Loopback platform for you, the Loopback framework. So you're not writing the client code in your mobile application to interact with the application here on the right side. You generate it. Or you just download like the iOS or Android libraries and then use those to make API requests to the endpoints that you define in your that application. And so basically this is like the life cycle, the request life cycle, what actually happens internally in this stuff. But all these green points are kind of highlighting what are the features. These are all the things that no matter what you use to build an API, you're going to have to build these sort of things. So starting with like routing, you'll have to build some sort of way of mapping an HTTP request to like some sort of code that's running on your server. So I think I got a little ahead of myself. Does anyone know? I think I asked this before, but I wanted to see hands. Node.js. Does anyone know what that is? Right. Okay. Cool. So this is all based on Node.js. If you want to use Loopback, you install Node on your laptop, you build out your Loopback application, and then you extend it with Node, JavaScript. So it's kind of like, is anyone familiar with CouchDB? Yeah, so if you think about CouchDB as like an appliance, like an old school enterprise software, where it's like a database. You install a database and it's kind of done, and there's ways to extend CouchDB. It's similar to that, where you're configuring Loopback, like saying where to route the HTTP request to, how does, like, what access controls, like who can access what. You're specifying these things in these configuration files. For a lot of applications, that's enough. So you use our tooling, you define these configuration files, and then you've got an API. Which a lot of people really like that because they can build up these APIs really quickly, and then they can focus on building that platform that I was talking about before instead of, like what I see a lot of startups do, which is a huge mistake, is they go and they build all this technology, which is completely worthless. Because they're not going to go and build their business on this. They're going to build maybe a couple of applications. And some companies have done it successfully, like Uber. But for the majority of companies that try and do that, they go build out all their own framework and technology to implement APIs on top of it, have ultimately ended up moving to frameworks. And at least the companies that I've done. So, any questions so far? I think we're going a little fast. Okay, cool. That's good. All right, so you've got a mobile app, let's say on the left, like an iOS application. Ultimately, you need some sort of like canonical concrete source of data. Like, let's say MongoDB or a SOAP service, maybe that's like some legacy code, or a REST service, or really anything that you can come up with. That's essentially what Loopback does. It allows you to orchestrate that. Like, this represents, oh, I'm going to make a call to all three of those things, aggregate the data, and do some math. And then, or maybe join some of that data together across these different data sources, and then send it back to our client. And what's really great about Loopback is that you can do that without JavaScript. You can do that sort of like CouchDB or a database. You set up this database, you're interacting with it by configuring a couple of things. But then what's really nice is that we have all of these JavaScript hook points throughout the entire request lifecycle. So anywhere that you need to customize, like what we get a lot of the time from customers, is that they need to customize, say, this layer right here, where they have their own proprietary token management. Well, we have JavaScript hooks that allow you to override, like for one, you could say I want to get those tokens from MongoDB, or you can override right here, like where this request is coming in. If your JavaScript, you can decide what to do, like whether the access control is allowed or denied, that sort of stuff. So that's the high level idea. I'm going to drill into all of these. I can talk in more depth. Okay. So, questions?
Aren't there other companies hosting Loopback solutions?
That's a good question. What? No, I don't think so.
Just Scrum?
IBM. Sorry about that. I mean,
It's open source, right?
Yeah, no, it's open source. So I would even suggest that. Go build out these Loopback applications and host them wherever you want. Ultimately, the reason, like the way we designed the product, that ultimately we have the best way of running it. We know the people that created all this technology, myself. We have our own cloud. IBM has its own cloud that's designed to run this style of application. There's like pricing benefits, etc. Like I get the question, but it's
can you leverage, by using Scrum implementation, can you leverage IBM services?
Right. Like so think about this as ... This really means anything. So the database, and then we've got services. One of those services could be like our IBM, we have Watson. We heard of Watson? Yeah. It's kind of a big deal. So it's like one of these REST services could be Watson's REST API. And now you're orchestrating, you're making like, call to MongoDB to get some data, piping it into Watson to do some analytics, let's say, or some fancy math that's possible to do. And then coming back, sending the entire thing back to your iOS application. So yeah, absolutely. That's very much on purpose. I think the other thing that's important to understand is that like these dots here, these are all physical JSON files somewhere in your file system. So when you use our tooling, it's built around that. It spits out these JSON files, which I'll show you in a second. And that's what sort of drives the entire system. I think I mentioned that before, so I'm repeating it. All right, let's dive into this. So this is a different way of looking at that last slide, but much simpler. So in Loopback, you're defining two things. This is, I don't know if people are familiar with like .NET or Java or anything. It's like a connection string to the database. Actually, every language does this. It's essentially a connection string to the database or to a service. You define, how am I going to connect to that data? And then you define data structures. And there's a couple other things you do, but that's essentially what you're doing in Loopback. What are the data structures and where is the data? And then we build out the REST APIs for you. So if we kind of drill in deeper, like what is that model? What is a model? So there's different types of models. Like in this case, we're saying persistent model, which means it comes from a database, which I'll show you what that actually gives you as far as like APIs. But saying you want a persistent model will basically create a broad set of REST APIs for the data that it's connected to. It also allows you to define, this is optional, but in this case we're defining different properties what is the structure of the data? And then these little fields are also the things that I was showing in the last chart. Go to the chart before. All of these things, access controls. This is the type of model that you're using, and then validations, as well as relationships. Just changed into. So what is a data source? It's like I said, it's a connected string. Very simple. Okay, let's get this. But when you create a data source, what implements the actual interacting with the database is called a connector. So this is a subset of the entire list. We have tons of different connectors that allow you to just type in a command using the UI. I have a screenshot of that a little bit. Select, okay, what's the data source name? In this case, we're connecting to a SOAP service. This could be a REST service, or any of these. Plus, there's I think there are a couple more, at least 10 more. And there's also, like it says here, there's connectors provided with the community. But you just select which one you want. And this is why a lot of people like Loopback, because they're just saying, okay, where is my data? What does the data look like? All right, use that connector, and then after this point, you have a working REST API to that data source. So this is just a screenshot of the UI. We're showing what's called the API designer here. Does anyone know what Swagger is? No. So Swagger is, does anyone know what Wisdom is? Wisdom. That's good. Don't learn what Wisdom is. Okay, but Swagger allows you to, it's like a language for defining or for specifying your REST API. So what's really common is, let's say you're a front-end developer, a mobile developer, and you're a back-end developer. You have to agree on what the contract is. How do you do that? Well, you could just say, like I've done this before, we'll say, these are the properties, right? But then you forget, oh, well, what's the verb? There's no language to talk to that person in. So that's what Swagger is. It's like a language to talk about REST APIs. And that's sort of what, when you use this editor, that's what it outputs. It's called Swagger. So back to Loopback. So a couple slides ago, I was saying persistent model. This is physically what you get. This is JavaScript here. The important parts of these names here. So just by specifying base persistent model, we get all of this functionality for free. So if this was connected to, let's say, a MySQL database, we'd be able to insert records in the MySQL database to account operations, delete all records, etc. And the most important one is this find, which allows you to do what are called dynamic. This is unique to Loopback, actually. And this is probably the most differentiating feature of all. It's called dynamic object queries, which allows you to, does anyone know what JSON is? Come on, JSON. All the business people, raise your hand. What's JSON? So it allows you to write what used to be SQL in JSON, which is really easy to do with SQL. So from your REST API, so remember, we didn't write any code to do this. It just says on a persistent model that's the data source is, let's say MySQL. Then we can do these dynamic object queries that are in JSON, so we don't have to write a bunch of SQL. We can query our database any way that we want from our REST API. And I have an example of it a couple of times, but that's really important so to go back to the platform idea, for anyone that wants to actually start a successful company, the platform idea is that you're not building an API just for your single application. You're building an API and a platform for many applications to be used in ways that you don't even know how they're going to be used. That's what's so important about this, is that the consumers of your API can control it in ways that you don't even know. They can query it in ways that you haven't even supported. And then, thanks to these folks, throughout the entire life cycle, if there's something that you want to lock down, you just write a little bit of JavaScript and it locks it down so that they can't do queries that run forever and etc. All right, any questions so far? Very cool. Is this too high level, too low level? Not enough code? You got thumbs up, so that's all I need. All right, so when you're extending, like this is an example of hooking into loopback, so you're providing additional functionality. So yes, there's insert, there's all those methods that I was showing you before, like all of these. There's all this functionality. Insert data, manipulate data, query data. But what if there's something that you want to do that doesn't exist in loopback? We just you write a JavaScript function, and then you tell loopback how to make that function call from REST. So if you look at the example, it's actually fairly straightforward. So this is a HTTP request. We're using curl, we're specifying the method name. We change this to whatever we want. We also change this to whatever we want. So this is what's invoking that JavaScript function. It's essentially doing the routing of that function based on the method name in this case. It's also mapping this argument, go back to the JavaScript, mapping that to this argument here. And same thing with this callback, mapping the second argument to this argument here. So basically you're making a map in between the two things, and the advantage there is that you write vanilla JavaScript. Look at this. So forget about the lower section. This is basically vanilla JavaScript. There's really nothing unique to loopback about it. What that allows you to do is just stick in functions that are implemented by people that have no idea what loopback is, and it'll just work as long as you tell loopback where the arguments are within the function. Which means it's compatible with Node. And that's a huge thing about loopback that people don't realize that I've used similarly. So we built it in a way that you could use any Node module. So Node has, I think, 250,000 different modules that implement all this sort of like useful functionality, so you don't have to go write it. You can just throw all of that functionality in here, which is actually really huge time saver. Let's skip all of it. All right, validating data. So I mentioned modeling data before. Let's just define like what's the structure of the objects in your database. It's fairly straightforward. It's nothing new really for loopback. It's like everything else that's done in the past. This is sort of new though. So what we're doing here is with our user model, which defines all the properties and password for our user object in our let's say our Mongo database. But what are the rules? These are all the rules for whether this data is valid or not. And why this is important is that we're just writing like, 6 lines of code, and now we're restricting the input of data to this API call. So now when you make API calls to create new users, for example, it'll fulfill all of these different rules. Like, it must have both a name and, Essentially what we're saying is, you write some rules instead of a bunch of JavaScript, or the equivalent in some other language, to validate the data before it gets into the database. And then, like all other things in loopback, if it's not built in, like if the rule isn't built in, you can add a custom rule. So you just write a JavaScript function, and you specify it here as a second argument. You can say what the message is when this rule is, when this rule is not enforced. So in this case, if the points are less than 0, then it'll print out this message as part of the error issue response. So relationships. This is another really powerful feature that a lot of people like. So if you define, like, let's say you have a user and then you have reviews, and you want to have APIs that relates that data, you don't have to write a bunch of JavaScript to do that. You just define a relationship using the tooling that we provide, the CLI that I was showing you before. You specify what the type of relationship, and then it builds out all of those APIs for you. So this is an example of using the CLI to create the relationship. It prompts you for all the different relationship types, what model you want to create the relationships between, etc. And then you can make these style API requests. This is actually really powerful. So instead of building out a bunch of JavaScript that does like joins, you can just make an HTTP request that includes, in this case, we have coffee shops and we have reviews. Coffee shop has many reviews. We say include the review data associated with the coffee shop in this HTTP request, and it returns this JSON, which is the coffee shop data and the review data all on. It also allows you to do it within JavaScript, which is very straightforward. So this is like the last section. Is there any questions so far in the relations? Okay.
Hey, quick question. So this is always ongoing when you build it out. APIs on top of APIs, pretty much.
Say that
It's
again?
going to be always ongoing.
Right.
So many different users are going to be adding additional
APIs?
APIs to
Yeah,
the building.
absolutely.
Right? So
Yeah,
this
so-
makes your application that much more faster, right?
Right, so it's interesting you say that. So, has anyone heard of Ruby on Rails?
Yes.
So the way Ruby on, that's funny, everyone's heard of Ruby on Rails. So what sucks about Rails is that they generate a bunch of code, and then as more people, like you're saying, more people are building out a bunch of stuff on that, they're modifying that generated code, and then it's incompatible. There's no way for us as the framework developers to be like, oh, you modified it this way. And so there's no generated code here.
So drag the server down.
What's that? No, it's not driving the server down. It's just slight modifications you make to the code are unpredictable to us as the developers. There's nothing we can really do about it. But in this case, there's nothing for you to change unless you go and modify the actual source code of the framework, which no one does.
So does it scale in a sense? Is it scaling out? Is it scaling?
So what we're talking about is scaling out the number of people using the framework.
Yeah.
And there's huge companies using this framework.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like sometimes for like an audience like this, sometimes it feels like overkill. That's the point I was making at the beginning. Is like it seems like overkill now until you're successful. And so maybe sometimes this isn't the right thing to use. Maybe you should start with something very simple and grow into this. But you need to start thinking about this stuff as you're developing things.
So whatever
Start,
simple
at least
things.
think about it. Like don't use this fine, but at least think about this
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
So there's the entire auth system. This is basically the end of the presentation. Let me go through it from this slide, which is a little easier to understand. Okay. So look at this right here. So after we've routed, loopback routes your request to the remote method, right? Then you specify who can access what. That's what these role-based access controls are. This is another huge feature of loopback that really, like this, before we had this, no one really used the framework. Once they added this, it kind of exploded. So what it allows you to do is without writing any code, which is kind of the theme here, like not having to write any code, you're just specifying who can access what. And once the request gets to this point, it has enough metadata. You specify who can access what, it knows what you're trying to access, and it just either allows or denies the request. Which is actually really powerful because not only can you do that statically, you can do it dynamically. Meaning you can build these access controls based on the data that you have in your Mongo database. So like Joe Schmo can access this object in the database. You insert a new access control record, it allows him to access that. So who can access what is actually dynamic. The other thing I was talking about is you can override how that system works so that it can be compatible with any authentication system. So like I was saying before, you can specify where your access tokens are stored if you use our bespoke authentication system, or you can override how it even tries to verify access tokens. And you can use an identity management service, token management service, like there's whole other things kind of like at this scale that do that sort of thing, and you can integrate with those using these hook points. So that's basically it. That's basically it for everything. Is there any questions?
So if you built this on the interface to construct your models, is that you wanted to target an iOS SDK? What's that process and what do you end up with?
Good question. So I forgot to mention one thing. So once you've done all of this, once you've defined all these APIs, we allow you to export that Swagger specification that's talking about before. And there's two ways you can do what you're talking about. One, we have an iOS SDK that you could forward on to users, or you could build your own iOS SDK based on the Swagger specification that we generate. Which, yeah.
That generates the stubs and stuff on top of all your calls,
Well,
specific to the thing you define.
Exactly, yes, that's exactly what it does. And it's not just stubs, it'll actually work.
Steps on top of an SURL section or something like that.
No, it generates using that code. At least Swagger does. So there's two different things we're talking about. One is the Swagger framework has a code generation tool that will generate all the, like, let's say Objective-C, or I think they support Swift. I'm not sure. If they don't, they will very soon. You can use that to generate like a Swift-based SDK. Same thing for Android, actually. Same thing for JavaScript. So you give it the Swagger, and it gives you all of the implemented client methods to make all the issues robust. Just have a nice action. And then we have our own SDK that you can use if you're not trying to build your own SDK that you're providing to someone else.
Can you layer different SDKs together to make some of those calls?
Sure. Absolutely. Anything else? We can talk about this more afterwards. So.
You're gonna hang out, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be here for a little bit. All right, awesome.
All right, Richard, thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathan Thompson, and I am the co-founder and chief creative officer at Tap That App. Thank you, Mario, for inviting me to come tonight. Just kind of jump into kind of what we do here. It's a squish. This displays a little squish, but that's an app. There's a lot of them out there. The marketplace for finding apps, we believe, is sort of broken. A lot of people sort of are coming around to agreeing with us on this. This is for real feedback from someone on the App Store. Meh, from user 15627.
It's a great rating, I love that.
Right? And of course, you know, the rant, right? So we've all kind of seen this, especially if we have apps in the App Store, kind of how frustrating this is. It's one way. There's not much, you can't reach out to user 15627 to tell them that there's a setting that he just didn't implement, and he'd love the app if he could. So we think right now that this is sort of not the best way to find apps, but yet this is the system we have, right? This is the system that iOS uses. This is also the system that Google uses. So we think there's a better way. And it really comes down to a simple thought. There are apps and there are friends. And we think that these people can actually be a good judge of what a good app is versus user 15627. And you're not, not everyone loves the same apps, so there's variety. And she didn't like this app, but those two people did. And we think that we can apply this sort of behavior on a grand scale, right? And if you think about it, I mean, how many of you are, in a conversation with people asking each other, hey, what app do you use to do that? Or, I saw that cool photo you did. What app did you use to edit that? Or, hey, I found a cool app, you should check it out, right? This is a behavior that currently already exists. Now there's an app for that, right? So, but what we wanted to do is kind of say, hey, look, your friends, they can recommend apps for you to use. And then, of course, it can go even further with celebrities and thought leaders and whatnot, who can really kind of sort of change and really make a big impact if you are a developer, right? Right now, there's no real way. I mean, there are ways, but the means of getting those kind of high-level recommendations don't really exist in a very cohesive environment. So that brought us to create Tap That App. And I'll give you a little demo of what it is. And hopefully it doesn't crash. It is really skinny. Can you guys see that okay?
And is this native iOS?
This is Android.
Android.
The reason we went with Android is iOS is and Apple are sort of very against any kind of app marketplace outside of their own,
Yeah.
In fact, any kind of rating whatsoever outside of iOS or the App Store will get you removed from the marketplace. So for us, that was kind of a bummer, but at the same time, Android offers a great opportunity because there are multiple marketplaces, right? Amazon has one, Google has one. There's actually about a dozen different marketplaces. And for us, we thought, at the same time, there's the gaming of the rating systems on Android is phenomenal. Like you can go on there and just see you can basically do the whole thing. You pay someone, you get 1,000 reviews. It's a complete garbage. So there's not a lot of trust in the Android world for apps. A lot of people have phones at 75% of the market, but the people who have these phones don't trust the marketplace to download apps. So again, we're trying to create a way to kind of overcome that. So I'll do a little quick onboarding here. Tap that app, find the apps your friends love to tap. Kind of do a little quick walkthrough of some of the features. Discover apps that are popular in your social network. Follow friends and influencers to see which apps they use. And share the apps you love with the world. Okay. And what we do is we use the Twitter API as our social network. Right now, that's all we've got, but we're kind of start building in Facebook and other social networks. But Twitter seemed like we thought would be the quickest way to get adoption, because it is sort of a quick one way, and influencers use the platform quite well. There we go. Sorry. Turn this off. Okay. So we'll sign in. So the first thing you see when you get on here is a feed. Again, if you've onboarded, you'll have people that you're following, and you'll have apps that you've tapped. And you kind of get a sense of simply like what people are doing. Sort of follows like the Pinterest model of feeds. And each one of these, of course, you can click any of these apps and then open it directly in the App Store, right? So in this case, what we're seeing is my friend Charlie right there loves this app. So does somebody else, but I'm not following that person. And he recommends it, so I can say, okay, great. If he likes it, then it must be good. From here, you can go in and see users. So again, this is sort of like, these are the people you're following. You can kind of see the long list here. We have a leaderboard, so we can see who's kind of crushing it, who's got the most followers, the most apps. And then of course you can find people, right? So sort of we've seen this used on, say, Periscope and whatnot. You have a list of people, you kind of invite the ones that don't have it yet, and then just follow the ones that are current, the people you follow on Twitter who are already on here. And then the next part, kind of the fun part, is, there's the fun part. Just so you guys know, we launched in March. We are kind of in a sort of a beta phase. We're on our third update of this, and every day it's an adventure. So right here you can kind of get a little taste of sort of how you go in and select the apps that you like. This will scrape your phone and find out what apps are installed. So there's actually no manual entry that's necessary. So you can say, okay, loving some of these, I'm loving the AirDroid because it's what I'm watching right now. So now people who follow me will see that I recommend it.
That's what you're doing, AirDroid?
Yeah, that's what I'm using to show. We also kind of try to have some fun with this. Like, the user experience UI, we wanted to kind of give you a sense that, okay, what's it like to kind of use that phone interface. So we have, the list view is sort of the default, but we kind of built this one in so you can kind of see and swipe left and right to see kind of what's happening. And it's really kind of, the idea right here is, like, let's say for instance, I go to the Sidebox phone here. So I can actually sort of see what that phone looks like, right? Sort of a virtual phone of what is out there. And along with that, like, that doesn't ever happen on demo nights, does it? Apps crashing? Didn't think so. Well, there was the Worldwide Developer Conference today, so maybe it's
I'm just
in keeping with Steve Jobs.
So I'm curious with the audience, okay, how do you guys discover apps? Is it a friend refers you? Is that popular? And then the other one is ads. I mean, has anybody in this room clicked on an ad for an app? Yeah. Instagram ad? Yeah, because I mean, it's interesting that how we curate, how we find out new apps is through our social connections. And it's really not, I mean, you could go to the App Store and now there's just way too, how many people think there's way too many apps in the App Store?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I guess at the Worldwide Developer Conference today, Tim Cook said that basically the Apple App Store has now reached 2 million apps. So,
because even you getting into Play, and you have all of that stuff you have to deal with, and now there's so much competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
On top, right?
Right. It's. I mean, as a developer, it's the biggest burden is also like getting discovered, right? And rising to the top. I mean, if you think about it, like I think at the rate that they're coming out, I mean, there's like 500 apps a day that are launched at the rate.
It's like you need a curated. Like, I mean, I guess our social graph is we're the curators of what we use.
Right.
And then, I mean, some of us would be like, come here tonight and say, dude, I saw this app, it's kind of cool. They'll pick up on it, and then they'll like post it to their friends. I mean, that's how I got on, Tinder. Was like at a bar, and he goes, dude, have you seen this? Well, what is that? Oh, dude, you gotta check it out. And right, that's kind of how it's spread through wildfire.
Yeah.
Is there a ranking system for the apps, in a sense?
There is, yeah. There's a popularity, right? So how many people have tapped the app? Yeah, there is. In fact, if you go here to apps, you can see this is popular within my social network, right? So there's Twitter's at the top of that list. Popular overall, Twitter wins on that one. Instagram, YouTube, Spotify.
And how did you get friends to put like? How do you link your friends? Do they have to join that network, or can you bring it in through Facebook Connect?
Right now it's Twitter. Yeah. Facebook is coming, but Twitter is what we've got.
And are you doing just friends only, or friends of friends?
So it uses the exact same network that Twitter does. So basically everyone has an open account, right? Or an account that anyone can follow, right? So there's sort of no first degree, second degree. It's all first degree. So I'll go into a little bit, I'll go back to this deck real quick. A couple little things I can highlight. Kind of walked you through the screens. This is the feed that you saw. Let's skip this little silly animation if I can. And again, this sort of idea of being able to see, here's Megan's apps, right? So the idea is here is that you can actually sort of hold their phone in your hands. One of the things that we've kind of discovered in doing this is sort of, whether or not we admit it, there's a real intimacy with our phone, right? It's sort of like, you don't really just hand someone your phone anymore, right? There's sort of I'll text you, I'll send it to you, And I don't think it's anything to do with hygiene. I think there's sort of this really intimate nature, connection that people have with their phones. So we kind of want to have a little bit of that voyeurism and say, okay, well, what is it? If there's someone that let's say, you admire in your field, like, what do they have on their phone, right? And sometimes there was a thing going around for a little while where people would just snap a shot of their home screen and then send it up on Twitter, right? So that it's sort of there's an intimate character to what apps you actually have. And again, I kind of showed you this. This is sort of the profile view of each of the apps.
Do you have a private feature if you don't want to show every app?
If what?
Is there a private feature if you don't want to show every app?
So the way it works is that you have to select the app that you want to share. So by default, everything's not shared. So it's very much like these are the ones I want to share, right? So be careful. Don't share what you don't want everyone to see. Some of the value in this platform is the fact that we're able to now to kind of get a sense of not just how many, because right now if you go into the Google Play Store, you'll be able to see how many apps are downloaded, right? You'll be able to see how many are currently installed. But you really don't know how many are actually being used and liked and recommended. It's a smaller metric, but it's kind of a key metric, we think. And something that the other platforms don't let people know. Our source of revenue is advertising based, similar to the way Pinterest sort of has a feed of several pins. In that mix will be an ad. But what we're kind of excited about in a sense is that we don't sell ads, we just sell recommendations. So essentially, you're not going to see a banner ad, you just see the fact that this one was actually recommended by contrast the actual developer, right? So in the mix, it blends in. And for us, we think this is kind of a nice thing. It plays on this idea of native behavior. As a developer, when you launch, where do you launch it, right? If you're going to go the social media route, you're going to go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're going to try to get in people's way. The problem is that when you're on Facebook, you're not shopping for apps. When you're on Twitter, you don't really give a darn. So what we think is people will be coming to this platform using it to find new apps. And so an ad placement or recommendation in this scenario is much more likely to be used than, say, on Facebook when you're...
We have high intent, right? If I'm on an app, it's a discovery app, high intent is like,
yeah, you're already kind of in that mode. You're like, oh, great, another recommendation. Okay. How much time do I have left? 2 minutes?
Okay.
Let's see here. We did a little video. You guys want to watch a video? All right.
Who did it? Did you do it yourself or?
Yeah, I did some of this.
The bearded guy from Sandwich Video come? Who produced the app?
Excuse me?
Who produced it for you?
The video?
Yeah.
The agency that I run.
Okay, it's like I use an iMovie.
Oh, this is After Effects. So, full disclosure, so looking for how to kick butt. So I'd love any feedback that you guys have. Like I said, we launched in March, and learning every day. So your feedback is very welcome. We are looking for users, so if you are interested at all and you have an Android device, we'd love you to download it. And ideally, too, we're looking for developers, and this is twofold. We are looking for developers who want to be featured on our app, right? So if you have an app and then you're launching it, we'd love to feature you on here. We're doing it, free to get us going and get you guys some eyes. So I want to kind of offer that up for you guys. And also, we are sort of looking for developers for our own team. We have a sort of an interim CTO right now. We are looking for a more permanent person who would be interested in helping develop the next iteration and improve the product. So that's it. That's all I got. Here's our little.
Awesome. How did it reach you? Is it Nathan at?
Nathan at tapthatapp.io. And I'll have business cards in the back as well.
Thanks, Nathan.
Question?
I have a question actually. So, for it to be appearing on my app screen, do I have to like the app?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not going to be actually at my screen.
That's correct, right. It's virtual. You actually can set a background.
Okay, so
Right.
customize it?
Yeah, so you can customize it. And we built it too so that you actually have to have the app on your phone. So you can't just sort of game it and be like click, 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 click. You actually have to have it, and when you delete the app, it deletes
Okay.
the recommendation along with it. We also, on our latest update, we included a feature where if you download a new app, let's say you download Snapchat, it will pop up and say, you've downloaded Snapchat, do you want to tap it, right? Do you want to recommend this app, right? So, and then you click it, it takes you to that app screen, and then you can like it. So, little stuff, and we got a whole list of stuff we want to do for it, but
Will you have it available on iOS or?
not in its current form. Like I said, the iOS and Apple has a very hostile opinion of other app stores, so we can't, they would just reject it. We've seen a lot of people that even try simple things, like the idea of snapping a photograph. There's an app called Home Screen, where you would just simply, like, home button and side button, take a picture and post it, and that actually got removed. And they had no way to get back on. So, yeah. Do you have a question?
Yeah, do you have a monetization strategy for your app?
Well, it would be advertising based, right? So, well, it would be, so there's a couple different ways we want to do it. One is with the feed, right? So you would actually, when you open it, you would see recommendations there. And we would do it like a cost per thousand, a CPM. So as an app developer, you would say, okay, I want to be seen 10,000 times, and then we'd say, okay, here's a cost for that, right? The other ways is, you saw that we have like lists, right? So for instance, we were at South by Southwest. We created a temporary page for apps that were launching at South by Southwest as a promotion, right? So we can kind of have like sort of promoted app pages and all this kind of stuff, sort of like an ad buy, right? So you would say, I want to appear on there, here's how much it costs for the month. So that's sort of a monetization.
Do you host the APK? Or do you point to the Play Store for that?
It's hosted on Google servers.
So you just do a point to...
Right, and we use Amazon Web Services for our backend. Okay, well, thank you guys. Appreciate your attention. Thanks.
Thanks, Nathan. Maybe you'll hang out.
Hi guys, just want to say thank you to Mario and also for all of you guys for being here today. My name is Monica and I will be presenting Glide. What Glide is a visual hyperlocal social travel platform. Like what you said, we want to create a platform to build communities on there. And the reason I came up with Glide is because when I travel, I tend to want to do more cultural, more in-depth, sort of. I want to visit the city in a more local way. I don't want to go to super touristy areas, or I want to avoid the crowds, and I really want to be in the city like a local. I don't want to be a tourist, or I don't want to be scammed, or I just don't want to go into those tourist traps. Which is why I came up with Glide. And in today's world, we have a lot of resources, and people are looking to explore cities as a local, and they're looking for authentic experiences. They're looking to connect with those people. How many of you have had good experiences in a place where you either have a friend or you actually connect with a local? That's really those are the times when you have more memorable experiences. You take home a memory with you. and that's really what I'm trying to create here. And a lot of the resources, like I mentioned, are review-based. They're not recommendations. There's no real local human connection. And if you go to a place, or if you're going to a travel agent, you're giving like a number of pamphlets, and like on Yelp or TripAdvisor, a lot of the product or the information there is for tourists by tourists. And Yelp is not global. Yelp is I find it to be a little bit skewed, because if I like a spicy restaurant, and I'm into spicy food, but say Nathan doesn't like spicy food, but he has food there, we are going to have opposing views about that restaurant. It's not if I like spicy food and I saw Nathan's review, I'm gonna not go to that restaurant. So incidents like that happen all the time, and none of that information is curated according to what you like and what you want. And so the problem is non-curated, non-custom, and no personal human connection. So the solutions glide, we came up with I came up with this idea where we can build a platform that's visually centric, because we see first and think later, and we want to see. We look at more pictures than really read on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and we really allow a platform where you can connect with the locals. You can request personally curated itineraries or experiences by those locals. Say, I'm going to use Nathan a lot because I've been talking to him. But he's from Austin originally, and if I've never been to Austin, but he's lived there most of his life, and I can basically reach out to Nathan while I'm planning my trip to Austin and say, Nathan, I know you're a local there. I'm going to be there for a week. I would like, if you're free, I would like you to show me around Austin for 2 days, and for the rest of the 3 days that I'm there, can you please provide itineraries for me? And that brings in a local connection. I'm going to go to a local pub, or a local hike that I would have never gone to, or a museum that's like less traveled, or it's more of a local touch. And that's really what Glide is bringing, a local community that's going to help travelers to really experience the city more locally, but on a global scale. I can go to Venice, Italy, and find a local there. Right now, we don't have platforms or services like that are out there to help the travelers. And that's what Glide is, basically. And to go over it further, I don't really have a demo today, so it's going to be slides. We have incorporated Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as a mode of signing in. Or you can even sign up with just email and password. You can also try us out. A lot of times when I go on an app, download an app, I want to kind of see it before I sign up for it, and you can do that with Glide. You can just try it out, see how it looks, how you like it, and if you like it, I pretty much guarantee you like it. But if you don't, then you don't have to download it. But if you just see our user flow, you'll end up liking it. You'll see that it has a lot of the same flow as Pinterest. That's how I've created the live feed that we're going to put in there. I have it on here actually. So you can explore cities by filters, by typing in a keyword. If you like hiking, if you like restaurants, if you like whatever it is that you like, you can search it by in our search feed, and if you like it, you can yes.
So how are you doing number 2?
Number 2, find a local that suits your personality. You search in our explore feed. Say you want to search hiking, and you're going to see at that point posts that are related to hiking, and you can go into the post and going to see the local's profile, and you can basically see if your interest and their interests align. They hike.
So you might piece together several things. If you're here for a week, you might hike one day, you might do something else another day.
Right, and you don't have to connect to that local for every single day. You can ask multiple itineraries from multiple locals. And that's really the freedom that Glide is providing, is that you don't have to be tied down to one person. Right now, you know, for example, if you go, a lot of people have compared this to Airbnb for travel guides. And that's really, you know, when you go stay at an Airbnb place, you know, nowadays what's happening is there are a lot of handoffs, and if you do end up going to your place to stay with Airbnb, the host may or may not have the similar interests that you do. And this gives the freedom for you to contact another host or another local there and have them curate an itinerary for you, or, you know, take you around town and show you around. So the way you would curate your experiences, you would search the locale, find the local, connect with them, request an itinerary, or request a personal experience from them. And for you to share an experience, for you to upload an experience or a picture or an event, you can it's simple, taking a photo, add some info, upload it. You can share with Glide community. You can also share with other social media networks like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So yeah, that's really, you know, what Glide is. I really just want to, you know, provide a platform for people to connect in a more local way. I want to travel locally. I want to, you know, I've seen so many posts on Facebook. I'm in Chicago, what should I do? I'm in LA, what should I do? And, you know, not every friend of mine has the same interests that I do, so I can't really help every single one of them. But, you know, with Glide, you're able to expand your network. You're able to reach out to many more people and really request and take away a memory that, you know, you wouldn't be able to if it wasn't Glide. So to talk about a little bit about our growth, our target market is, you know, millennials and, you know, avid travelers, people who are moving into new cities, you know, because if you're moving into LA, never been to LA, you would want to know your neighbors. You wouldn't want to know your local tailor. You would want to know your, you know, neighborhood specialities. You know, being in LA, you know, Silver Lake is so different than Santa Monica. So LA is such a big city. A lot of people who come into LA, they sometimes just hit the touristy spots and say, I hate LA. And, you know, they don't really see LA for what LA is. There's so many hundreds of communities within LA. There's a little Tokyo, there's Thai Town, there's a little India, there's, you know, a lot of different communities that are within LA, and people don't realize that. And, you know, that's really what I want to, you know, that's really what I want people to explore, is the real LA, and, you know, based on what they want, and take back home an experience that they'll remember. So that's really it. Currently, it's me and my partner Puneet. He's my tech co-founder, I guess. And, you know, currently we are, as Richie was saying, you know, I want to create a company that's solid, that's going to add value to other services, other companies. Imagine, you know, your Uber driver having a Glide API, which is what you know, we're also working on. Lyft has a Glide API. I know Airbnb is doing something similar to Glide, but it's not as curated and custom. And, you know, their $250 tours are the same tours that everybody's going to get if they go to that host. They're not custom to what you would want. So, you know, imagine all these big companies or all these, you know, service providing companies have Glide API to help you travel a city better. And that's really, you know, one of our marketing strategies is to reach out to them and have strategic partnerships. And you know, we have made it more of a, we have a badging system that allows people to see that basically, you know, rates the glider. That's what we're calling our local post glider. And you know, it really allows people to, you know, have trust in their gliders and really build that community and, you know, be a part of a more emerging market in travel, because more and more people, as you see, you know, there are offices like WeWork, there are people traveling and working, you know, there are just so many endless opportunities here that we can basically service. So a little bit about me. I have a totally different background. I graduated in biochemistry. I was the junior scientist for Johnson & Johnson for about 2.5 years. I've done real estate. I've done, you know, I ran a food truck, a mini dessert food truck that got bought out and taken up to San Jose. You know, it's been a passion of mine to be in technology, to be part of this emerging sort of industry. You know, tech. Even when I was younger, you know, I remember phones, you know, being like corded phones, and there was no real concept of cell phones, and the ones that were like a brick. And you know, now we have like small little phones that are basically mini computers, and you know, really can help us. I've traveled to Greece, and you know, I've used Google Maps to travel and drive around in Greece. So you know, it's the phones and the internet have taken us so far. And it's just a constantly growing industry. You have to, I mean, I'm super passionate about it because of the convenience and the opportunities it provides us. And that's a little bit about me. My partner, Puneet, he's also my husband. He's been in IT for more than 20 years. He's really, he's helping me build the app in such a way that it is scalable from 10,000 users to 10 million users, and not have a lot of issues in that field. So he's really the one who's leading the team and our developers, and he's helped me build a more solid product. It'll be out around 4th of July. It's in app review, so we're waiting from Apple. So that's another reason I don't have a demo. But yeah, that's Glide, and that's really all I have. This is our information. Info at Glide app, or you can also contact me at monica@glideapp.com. Currently, I have a coming soon page, glideapp.com. You can sign up there so that as soon as it's in the App Store, I'll send out a link. I do want to beta test it a couple of days before, so that people have some content on there. I do have some content on there, but I would like people to be more involved in it. So yeah, if you want to go to glideapp.com, sign up, and you'll be more updated on what's going on with Glide. Any questions? Yes.
I noticed that you said personalized itineraries. That's where you monetize. Are those the gliders? Are those the individuals? How do you monetize that?
So they're user A and B. They both can be considered gliders, because if I go to, say, Austin and hire Nathan to be my local glider, I'm going to pay him to show me around, and I'm going to pay him to be able to give me itineraries, digital itineraries, and Glide gets a percentage of that. The other monetization that we have implemented is big data, really collecting human behavior and how people can basically react or interact in a certain location. It helps with studies. It helps with what works better commercially. Another aspect we're going to be monetizing is curated advertisement. We're not going to bombard people with advertisement, because it's a curated community. We're creating a platform for advertising that is going to be basically, do you want to see advertisements for such and such stuff? So you're going to get curated advertisements, not just random stuff that's not relative to you. So, and you are going to be able to dictate if you want to see advertisements or not. So it's going to be more direct. The ROI is going to be better on that. So we're working on all those aspects as we speak. So that's my monetization. Any other questions? All right.
All right, Monica.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks everyone. We'll be back here at the end of July. We're going to do another session for any Android developers. Qualcomm has a set of performance tools that are free, and they can tell you about battery life and other performance stuff, and you can tweak them. So if any of you are gamers, they can show you how to tweak the GPU. There's a lot of APIs that Android obfuscates, and so they will show you how to get access to them. So you can talk directly to the silicon. But we have lots of refreshments and stuff. I wish you guys to hang out and mingle. We probably haven't met everybody around you, so it'll be good. And I think Nathan, Richie, and Monica will hang out if you have more questions. Thank you very much.